what have I learned along the way that I can use to now turn and look forward and light the way for the next person who's coming behind me and teach them everything that I learned. When we're embracing the creativity, that energy, that innateness that is within us, that's when we're shining the brightest. That's when we can go the furthest. That's when we light up the most. Authenticity is what sells. True. We're past the point of perfect hair, perfect teeth, perfect clothes, perfect everything. Some of the most successful businesses really appreciate and celebrate imperfection.
Hi, everyone. It's Dana Weaver, and I am so thrilled to have Pascale Cook-Fernandes as my guest today. Pascale has a multifaceted background aimed at empowering women to discover their clarity and potential. At the heart of her mission is the desire to support women coaches, healers, and speakers, and to turn their PhD in life into a thriving business. She's the owner and CEO of Women Finding Clarity, and her own PhD in life includes her coaching certification. She's a Reiki Master, podcast host, and she has a degree in teaching. And she has a marriage of 23 years and counting, and a mom to 3 amazing young adults. Welcome to Next Level Leadership. I'm your host, Dana Weaver, and welcome, Pascale. I'm so glad to have you here.
Dana, I'm so happy to be here. Before we even hit record, I was just talking about how I love being in your presence and in your leadership, and you're just such a beautiful soul. And so thank you for having me here, and I'm thrilled to be having this conversation.
Well, thank you as well. And the same goes with you. I love to be in your presence as well. I think we lift each other up, and we have a lot of great things to talk about. So now the world gets to listen. So actually, my first question, I told you it would be a little different, but it's, tell us this idea about having a PhD in life. Tell us what that means and how you got your PhD in life.
Yeah, wow, that's a good question. And a PhD in life for me literally means not everyone goes to college, right? And that's okay. I have 2 kids who are in college and one that's going into the trades. And I love that, right? Whatever makes them happy. However, they're going to find their own version of success. And a PhD in life, when you go to college, you pay your money and they say, great, here's the piece of paper. And this piece of paper says, you're going to start here and you're going to keep going on this path until you get here. And then we're going to give you the really good piece of paper that says you did the thing. PhD in life says, instead of looking on forward on that path, it's looking backward at the path and saying, where did I start? What have I been through? What have I learned along the way that I can use to now turn and look forward and light the way for the next person who's coming behind me and teach them everything that I learned on the path of my PhD in life. Does that make sense? I feel like that was a very long way to say exactly what I meant.
Well, it made total sense to me. So I feel like if it made sense to me, because sometimes I have to really have things explained to me, I'm sure that others will understand it as well. But yes, it did. And I really, really liked what you said about taking or helping the next person with what you've learned going forward. And I think that from what I know of you, that embodies you. You're always helping people to go to the next level. And I like to acknowledge that in people, and I love to be around those type of people.
I receive that and appreciate it. And you love it because it reflects back to you who you are as well. And so when we see something in someone else and it touches us in such a way, it's because we have that inside of us too.
That's powerful. Thank you. Thank you for that. What led you to start Women Finding Clarity, your business?
Another great question, my friend. The not completely short answer is this. I like to say that I live in the flow of the universe, and I go where the universe tells me to go next. And so there was a time when my children were much younger that we were in a car accident, and one of the prescriptions that I received was to chiropractic care. Part of my chiropractic care was to see the massage therapist upstairs first for 10 minutes and then go down for a treatment. And one day, just on the massage table, I heard a voice in my head that I knew wasn't really mine, but it said, "This is how I want to make people feel." And I instantly knew, okay, this is my next step. So I went back to school for massage therapy, fast forward a lot, and started a business. It was amazing. I had always been a stay-at-home mom. I loved it. And my biggest value is being here for my children. And I started missing a lot of things with my children. And so it took a year to make a decision to really close down my business. But I did, because I knew the time I had left with them at home was fleeting. And so it was disappointing. And at the same time, I knew my time wasn't right. And so as it does, the universe just started to put things in my path that said, pay attention, pay attention. And I knew at a certain point it was go for my coaching certification. I didn't know then what I would be doing now, but it's just baby steps along the way and little tiny pivots, right? Because I was just coaching women in life. I was a life coach, right? And then I kind of pivoted because in those conversations, there were more conversations than not were about entrepreneurship and mompreneurs and all things women entrepreneur. And I said, you know what? This is how I can reach the most people and help the most people. And so in my PhD in life, I can look back at my very successful brick and mortar massage therapy business and bring all the lessons I learned to my clients now and everything that I'm still learning along the way.
Fantastic. Man, that's a lot to unpack. But the thing you had a very full life. But what I love about what you just said, and I think it's so important for other women to hear, is that you knew that what you were doing, while you enjoyed doing it, you didn't want to miss out on your family. And I think a lot of times us as women get caught up in our careers and forget about those special moments that we could have with our kids that we'll miss and we'll regret later on in life. And so kudos to you for recognizing that early enough that you didn't miss all of their life, because not everybody's able to do that.
Not everybody's able to do that. And I have always known that I'm very lucky. I'm very blessed to have been able to make a choice to be a stay-at-home mom, right? And, you know, in a conversation about leadership is all about making the hard choices. And so it really is about knowing yourself and knowing your family and knowing which choice is right for you. So, you know, I worked until the day I went into labor with my first baby. And as soon as that day came, I went into labor, I went home and that was it. I didn't go back to work again until I opened my massage therapy practice. But then we had another baby, and then we had another baby, and we lived in sort of an expensive town. And after 3 babies, we were kind of like, okay, we can't really afford to live in this town on one income. So we have a choice to make, right? Do we put the kids in daycare and I go back to work and that way we can stay here? Or do we move to a less expensive town and I can still stay home with the kids? And so for me, and for my husband too, I mean, it was a lot of conversation and soul searching, but truly the priority was stay home with the kids. And so we moved. And to be honest with you, I feel like our lives only got better because of it, for a lot of reasons I won't go into here. But again, in leadership, it goes back to choices. And when you have hard choices to make as a leader, one of the best ways that I can share to make those hard choices is to lean into your values and say, what is most important? Is it the money? Is it the town? Is it the house? Is it being home with the kids? I'm certain they would have still been amazing humans had I made the choice to go back to work. But I didn't. And they're amazing humans. And I got to be there every step of the way. And that is not a choice that every woman gets to make. And it's not a choice that every woman would make, because so many women don't want to stay home with their children. They love their career too. And so we're all individuals, and what is right for me isn't necessarily right for you. And that's why it's so important to lean back into the values and what's important to each of us.
Yes, well said. Thank you for that very much. Why have you just chosen to focus on women in your business versus just anyone who wants to be an entrepreneur?
Okay, first of all, I would never, if a male came to me and said, hey, I really want some help, can you coach me? Absolutely, right? Couple of reasons. The first reason is you and I both know the more you can niche down in the message that you're putting out into the world, the more likely your divine right clients are going to be to hear you. And so that is number one. Number two is I never really felt like I fit in with the girls as well as I fit in with the boys growing up, right? And many years back, I was invited to a women's conference here in Massachusetts. And I was like, sure, I'll come. I walked in, and the level of support, the level of encouragement, the level of uplifting that I witnessed in that conference, I feel like changed my life. And so since that time, I really feel like I've been more and more drawn to work with women because of that example that I was shown in a one-day conference, one day in a ballroom in Massachusetts, right? But it made such a profound impact that I want to continue to make that impact and show other women that we don't have to be catty. We don't have to be in competition with one another. We truly can support and uplift and encourage and walk beside each other.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm so glad that that is one of your missions, because it's also one of mine. I didn't know what women's support was like until I got into the program that you and I are both in. Not that I'd had horrible experiences with women. It wasn't really like that. It's just that we didn't support each other at that level. And I think together we can go so much further when we hold each other up than tear each other down or hold each other back. Or frankly, there's a lot of women who they're worried about being outshined by younger generations. And I think it's our responsibility as, older generations to bring them up. Not saying that we're the oldest generation, but, that's our responsibility to help them come up and help them succeed because they're the future of the world.
Yes. And, when we talk about generations, and I feel like I've maybe spoken with you about this before, but I spoke with someone about it. And as far as generations go, probably you and I were raised in a do as I say kind of a world. And it was very male and, masculine energy and all of that. And so a lot of times in the workplace, the older generations can say, we've always done it this way, and this is the way to do it, and it's my way or the highway. And that was the energy of the older generation. And let's face it, they were successful.
They were.
Very so many ways.
Yeah. I like that.
They were successful in their world. Mm-hmm. The world is very different. And so I think that part of being in your own leadership is being able to reach across generations, regardless of if you're reaching up, down, Let's just make it linear and let's just reach out and let's say, how can we work together to really be the best we can be in the world we're living in today?
Well put. Well put. I love this conversation.
I do.
I'm gonna have us look at leadership, women leadership, just a little bit different, because you are on the Next Level Leadership YouTube channel, and so I'm wondering, if you could take the conversation just a little bit further, and also let us know how women can help each other be next level leaders.
Really great question. Really great question. I'm going to say, beyond the things we've already talked about that are so important, leaning into your values, seeking the support and to be a support for other women and really linking arms and going together, I'm going to say to have either a beginner's mind or an open mind and a willingness to continue to learn. Because we truly do all look at everything from our own lens. Mm-hmm. And even though we may go through the same experience, we might be in the same workplace, we might be in the same industry, our own lens truly dictates how we're going to see what just happened in front of us, right? And so it's being willing to try to see something from someone else's perspective and to always remind yourself that you went through it together, but your experience is different. So I just want to explain that a little bit, because let's take my husband and I, for example. We're married. Like you said, we've been married for 23 years and counting. I really like him most days.
Yes.
23 years, you go through a lot of stuff, right? I'm going to say that. That's the nice way to say it. We have so much fun together, but we have been through some stuff and we don't always see it the same way. And the way that I can see to make that okay is to say, you know what? We're two different people. And so I'm on my path in this world and he's on his path in this world. And whilst we have chosen to run our paths parallel and go side by side, we're still each on our own path. And so remembering that on that path, the lighting might be different. The weather might be a little different, right? The temperature might be a little different. All the things might be a little different. And so we see things differently.
Yeah. Very well put. Yes. You're just tearing it up today. This is fantastic.
Truly, I feel like I'm just rambling on.
You're funny. Well, so being on your own path then, because I see you as a next level leader. because you're willing to learn all the time and because you know what your value is and values, and you use that to guide your path. Was there a defining moment in your life that really helped you to understand that you either were a leader or you were a great leader? Was there a defining moment in your life that brought you there?
Interesting. Yes, and I feel like there have been little things all along the way, right? So let's go back to fourth grade in my PhD in life, and I decided I was going to learn to play the flute. You get to pick an instrument. It's so exciting, all the things, right? And remarkably, I was decent at it. And so I would move to like become first chair, right? In the row. It means something, whatever. So
I'm a flat, whatever. Oh, as well. I loved being in first chair when I could. So I get you.
You understand it, right?
Yep.
And, you know, I'm going to follow this golden thread of being in band because I was such a band geek and I don't care because I loved it so much. But in high school, you know, I was in marching band and I loved it. And that's some of my best memories. But I auditioned to be the drum major in the marching band and, you know, the person up on the box who gets to direct. Who wouldn't want to do that? And I got chosen, right? And so that is a leadership position. And then, you know, just little things like that along the way that in totality, really just every baby step helped me to see like, oh, I kind of was good at that. Oh, I really enjoyed that. Oh, I was the leader again. Oh, right. And so was there one defining moment? Probably not. I think for me, it is, again, looking back at the Life's PhD and the lessons that I learned through all of that, because I did a lot of things that weren't leadership-esque, right? And I made a lot of mistakes and I made some not great choices. I wouldn't have called myself a great leader in those moments. And I don't consider myself a great leader now. I consider myself always striving to be the best leader I can be on any given day.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And that's part of your entrepreneurial spirit as well. I think those two marry nicely, that you're constantly trying to be better. And hopefully you're not comparing yourself with others. You're comparing.
Let's be honest, right? We all do it sometimes, don't we?
We do.
It's like a little monster that lives inside of us and like crawls around and is like, you know, I got in your head. Now I'm going to go make your stomach sick. And I'm going to come up here and make your chest tight. And I have no idea why I just called it a little monster, but that vision is just what came into my head. And we all do it. Mm-hmm. And part of solid leadership is just noticing that it's happening and then spending some mindful time really kicking the monster to the curb and knowing, wait, let me go back to my value. Wait, it's okay that I made a mistake because I just learned from it and I'll do better next time.
Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Everybody that's out there listening, take that and write it down because you can learn from every mistake. You can learn from every, I'm not going to call them a failure, but some people do. Those moments that we wish would have gone differently or things didn't work out the way we expected. We are learning from those and you can use that to take it to the next level. And so I'm so glad that you said that. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So why is it that leadership is important for entrepreneurs? Why is it an important skill or important thing to embody when you're an entrepreneur?
Such a good question. And the answer is because otherwise you're not an entrepreneur. If you're not a leader, How are you going to get yourself up every day? How are you going to get the hard tasks done even when you don't feel like it? How are you going to motivate whoever it is, your employees, your coworkers, your team, your clients, your customers, right? So if you're not in your leadership capacity, and it's okay if you don't want to be an entrepreneur, you don't want to be a quote unquote leader. Like, honestly, I'm happy. I've learned a couple things about myself. Let me say this. One, I don't like having a boss other than myself. I don't like answering to someone else, right? In that capacity. And I feel okay about that. The other thing is that, what was the other thing? I don't like having a boss. Who's going to get you up? I don't know, Dana. Balloons. It doesn't matter. There are balloons.
That's awesome. The balloons just are telling you that you continue to rise.
I continue to rise, even though, right? And this is what I was going to say. I remember. Except for in entrepreneurship, I don't want to be the boss.
Ooh.
I learned that about myself.
I am
very happy being a cog in the wheel. I'm very happy being a worker bee. Tell me what to do. Tell me when to show up. Tell me what you need done, right? Tell it to me in like I'm a second grader. Explain what you need done like I'm a second grader, so I will do it based on the vision that's in your mind, and I'm happy to come and do it. I don't want to be the boss, and that's okay. And I think that's part of being a leader, is knowing your strengths, knowing your weaknesses, knowing what you want to do, knowing what you don't want to do.
Absolutely. That's so true. Yeah. You did make a little caveat there. You said, except for being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So tell us more about what that would mean. Because you have to be the boss when you have a company.
You have to be the boss. And as an entrepreneur, and as, you know, if you're a solopreneur, you wear all the hats. You're all the bosses.
Yeah.
Right? If you're lucky enough to have a partner or, you know, someone else on your team or all of that, then sure, maybe there needs to be a hierarchy. But even with yourself, there needs to be a hierarchy. You have to know, you have to learn what's most important in your business. You have to learn to delegate your time. You have to learn to protect your time, right? You have to learn to protect your calendar for sure. Mm-hmm. You have to learn what order, because the to-do list can be 14 miles long. And you have to know what needs to get done now and what can wait until tomorrow or 2 weeks from now. And so I'm not a particularly picky person in that I'm not type A. I always used to say I'm type Z, right? I'm just like, yeah, well, it's fine. My son's graduation party is on Sunday. I just ordered the cake today. Like,
I love it.
It'll all work out. Like, everything isn't neat and tidy in my home. You know, the cans aren't all lined up. At the same time, I know what needs to happen in my business next. I know what I want my calendar to look like. I know, right? And so as a leader in entrepreneurship, you have to give yourself lanes and boundaries. And I can look back at my brick and mortar massage therapy business and say, one of the things, if I could go back and do completely differently, would be to have better boundaries around my calendar, my time. Because if a client was hurt and a client needed me for body work, I'd figure it out. And it got to the point where my husband and I felt like we were high-fiving on the way through the door because he was coming in, I was going out, the kids were figuring it out. If I could go back with the lessons that I've learned along the way and implement them, I probably never would have closed it.
That's powerful.
Yeah. But I truly believe that the universe is here to support us. I truly believe that success is our birthright. If we're willing to take one step and then the next step and then the next step, right? We're on the path toward our own success. And so that said, I don't think I was ever meant to be a massage therapist my whole life. I think I was meant to do that for that period of time and learn those lessons so I can bring them forward and help other women.
I love that. Very good. Well, it's making me think, so you're a coach and you help women entrepreneurs grow their business. What have you found is the biggest stumbling block for women trying to build their business?
Themselves.
And how do we get through that?
With a coach, with an accountability partner, with someone who can help us with our mindset, right? Because when the little monster starts talking and running around, we need to have skills in place and tools in place to be able to say, wait a minute, I don't think that's exactly right. I think I'm making up a story right now. But if we don't learn from other people, it goes back to always being in a learner's mind. If we don't learn from other people, and if we don't learn from our own experiences and the experiences we've witnessed in others, how can we continue to move forward? And that's the beauty of coaching, right? Someone asked me very recently, what's the difference between therapy and coaching? I think the line can be very blurred between therapy and coaching if you're not careful. Here's what I see as the difference. A therapist is when you have a dysfunction of any kind in your life, you go to a therapist and a therapist helps you unpack it, work through it, all of the things. And that takes you to functional. So therapy is dysfunctional to functional. It could be a tiny dysfunction. It could be a pretty big dysfunction. Once you're functioning, don't you want to be extraordinary? Don't you want to be the best version of you that you can be? Don't you want to, and I don't mean everybody's shooting to be a billionaire and everyone wants a yacht and I don't mean that. But what I do mean is, okay, I'm going to bring in my woo side a little bit and my energy work a little bit. We are innately creative beings. We were created. We are here to create. If you look back through the history of time, all man has come to do on this earth is create, right? And so when we're embracing the creativity, that energy, that innateness that is within us, that's when we're shining the brightest. That's when we can go the furthest. That's when we light up the most. And so, yes, we can go to therapy for our dysfunction and be taken to merely functional. But don't you want to shine just a little bit brighter? And whether that's in entrepreneurship or that's in business or that's in your marriage or motherhood or friendship or, it can be in anything. But really tapping into the energetics of your own innateness, your own creativity, that's coaching. That is telling you to look within and hold you accountable to say, are you looking within? Right?
Yes, yes, yes. I like that. It's interesting that you brought that up. I just had the same conversation recently. I think that that's something going on around our sphere of influence right now. But I also heard it. I love the way you put it, and I also heard it put that um, therapy is looking back to bring you to present day, and coaching is helping you to look forward to help you understand how you should act today, if that makes sense.
100%. And that pretty much sums up exactly what our conversation started, where the place where our conversation started today, right? Because not everyone goes to college and not everyone has a paper PhD, but everyone has a PhD in life. Everyone can look back and bring with them all their life lessons, everything they've learned, all their stories, all of it, and shine their light a little brighter so someone else is able to see.
Yes. What? I feel like we should end there, but I have more questions I want to ask you.
I mean, I've got 4 hours. Hit it.
Okay. I don't know if our listeners necessarily do, but
No.
I enjoy talking about all of this stuff with you. And I enjoy talking about it in general because I like to learn from other people and see how they go through life and how they've learned. And really, looking at everyone's life's PhD is it's very fascinating, and it helps you to understand where people are coming from. It gives you a level of empathy for them that you wouldn't necessarily have if you wouldn't listen to the stories. And I think all of those traits are important for leadership, whether we're entrepreneurs or we're working in a company, or corporate America, or wherever we're working. I think those are all really good traits to bring forward. Are there any specific strategies that you would recommend to our listeners, or to aspiring leaders, women leaders, to elevate their presence and their leadership?
Specific strategies. Yes. So I would say the first thing is to really spend some mindful time getting to know yourself. And, it's shocking how many people cannot be alone by themselves.
It's true.
If they're alone in a house, they have to have the TV or the music on, right? If they're alone in a car, they have to be on the phone. And so my biggest tip, I would say, is learn to be alone with yourself so you can get to know yourself. And it goes back to your values. What's important to you? What are your triggers? What lights you up? What's your version of success? Because if you're in a leadership role, and let's face it, I would say most women are in some capacity, in some form or another. If you're in a leadership role and you don't know how to communicate what it is that you want to have happen, how are the other people going to know? And if you don't know who you are, what you stand for, what triggers you, what lights you up, what's your version of success, how can you expect the person who is trying to follow you to follow you? So the roadmap truly that you want to carry with yourself is the roadmap of who you are. That's when people can follow you. That's when people will trust you, because you're going to be communicating the same message all the time. It's like marketing, right? If you have 14 messages that you're putting out into the world, they're going to fall on deaf ears. But if you continue with the same 1 to 2 messages that you're putting out over and over and over again, people are going to start to hear it and pick it up. And how many times is it now that we have to hear something before we truly can learn it and make it be a new habit? It's a lot.
It is. It used to be 7 or 8 times, but I think that number has actually gone higher.
It's a lot higher now. And I don't even want to quote the number, but it's a lot higher. I'm going to have to look it up now. But that's my point, is if we're not continuing to communicate and lead from the same values, from the same roadmap, who's going to trust us to know our way? Who's going to want to follow us because we're going to get lost?
Mic drop.
I'm not sure that necessarily gave a tip or a strategy per se that somebody can, today go out and implement and they're going to see a huge difference. But what I will say is baby steps, one thing at a time. And another thing that I will say, here's another great tip, is to let yourself off the hook, right? Let yourself off the hook. And here's what I mean by that. If you see something in your leadership or in yourself that you don't particularly love and you want to change it, the first thing you have to do is just notice it. That's it. You don't beat yourself up. There are no shoulds. Should, have, all of that, that's judgment that you're placing on yourself, right? I should have done that. That means you're not good enough. You didn't do it. You should have done it. What's wrong with you? No. Let yourself off the hook. No shoulds. Identify the thing, one thing at a time, that you'd like to change, and then just start to notice. Because the more you notice it, the quicker you're going to be able to implement change. So first, you're just going to notice 2 or 3 times. And then you're going to start to catch yourself right before you do the thing. And then you're not even going to come close to doing the thing that you don't want to do because you've noticed enough times and you started to catch yourself. So I would say with any change, with any development in leadership that you're trying to implement, identify it and then just start to notice it, because you can get a lot of information just by noticing.
Yes, you sure can. And I love that you included that no judgment piece, because that's very typical for, it's really, I can't even say just women anymore. I think it's really anyone. We judge ourselves so much because we see so much judgment out around us.
It's true. And I think it's really important, a really great quality of a strong leader is to understand that social media is the highlight reel. And this is not new information. I'm not the first person to say it, but we do get in judgment of ourselves because someone else's highlight reel looks perfect. And, their hair is perfect and their clothes are perfect and their teeth are perfectly white and they have no blemishes and their house is gorgeous and they're You don't know what happened behind the scenes before they hit record or before that picture was taken. You don't know how much they were screaming at their team because, the photographer was late and they should have had it in order and like all the things. You don't know. Social media is the highlight reel. Understand that there's a lot of B footage. The B-roll lives there. You just don't always get to see it.
Amen. Yes.
So when you're judging yourself because you are not enough or because you should have, notice that you're doing it and then say, wait a minute. My highlight reel is pretty great too. I just happen to have, I don't know, smeared my lipstick, whatever, right?
You just happen to be more real.
Exactly. And here's a hot tip for anyone in entrepreneurship. Authenticity is what sells.
True.
We're past the point of perfect hair, perfect teeth, perfect clothes, perfect everything. Some of the most successful businesses really appreciate and celebrate imperfection, right? Look at Dove, not to name drop or whatever, but they're like, embrace every part of you. You don't have to be a runway model. You don't have to be a size 2. You can be a size 22 and still love yourself. And, I won't say no greater respect, but I have huge respect for plus size models who get up on TV or who go and do photo shoots in their underwear. Right? The sales model is changing, and I think it's only for the better. Authenticity. People want to know what life is really like. Who would you rather follow? The person who, is picture perfect, or the person who's like, oh my God, I spilled my coffee all over myself in my car today, and so my jeans are wet, but let's go. We're having a meeting.
Yeah.
I'd rather follow that person because they persevered, because they're not trying to be something that we can't strive to be, that's not attainable. I want to know that if I spill my coffee, I'm still welcome in the meeting.
And have something, you have something to contribute, and you want them to hear it, regardless. It's funny you say that, because I resemble that. I'm the one that will spill the coffee before a meeting, generally. And my former coworkers that are watching this, they called me Stana.
I don't think I like that.
I love it. I think I've embraced it over time because it just became so funny. And I wasn't on my game if I didn't have some kind of something going on, it seemed like.
That's part of being a leader too, right? Is really just accepting all parts of you.
So true.
Don't sit next to me in church, Dana, or in an important event or an important meeting, because you and I, or at least I, am going to laugh. I've been kicked out of classrooms growing up because I couldn't stop laughing. Pascale, go in the hall and gather yourself, and then you can come back in, right?
Yep.
I'm okay with that.
That's great.
Yeah.
And you should be. You should be. Because you say that, and it reminds me of the times when I was a little girl in church, and I was quite spirited, and I was always talking to my friends and writing stuff. And I remember looking up at some of the people in the choir that were in front of us. And there was one woman in particular who was a teacher of mine that kept looking at me like, you need to be quiet. You need to be quiet. She was a sweet, sweet woman, but she had this expectation of the kids. And even though I know that this wasn't her aim, or this wasn't what she really wanted to portray, it made me step back and be a lot more quiet and not be the person that I really am, because I thought that was what was expected of me. And the fact that we do have kids, and we were kids that would have fun and laugh and be spirited and all of the things, I think that's part of what makes us who we are. And we want that back as adults. Why do we have to put it away when we're kids?
Yes.
Because it doesn't serve us in our future.
It most definitely does not. And that's the little place inside of you that is really crying to get out. So there's another tip, Dana, is in leadership, ladies, gentlemen, whoever you are, take another look inside and say, who was I as a child? And is that child trying to come out and be heard and be seen? Because who you are. When I was a child, I still am, but I was a crier. I feel big emotions, and I would cry a lot. And I was shamed for that and made fun of for that, and, tried to hide that away. And then when I became an energy healer and went through all of that, and it continues, but I really started to embrace that. It's sensitivity. It's a superpower. So all those little things that you're hiding away, all those little tiny puzzle pieces that make up your innateness, those are your superpowers.
Yeah.
Those are the things that when you shine a light on them again and let them be heard and let them be seen, are going to help make you a great leader.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for reminding us all about that.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the back of our minds, we've heard that before. But like you said earlier, the more we hear it, the more we believe it. So everyone that's listening, make sure you take time to sit with yourself and you ask yourself those questions and you find out who you were as a child and bring them forward. That's going to help you be a leader. And you may already be a leader. It'll take you to the next level. And Pascale just dropped so many great pieces of wisdom for us today. And I'm just wondering, is there anything that I didn't ask you, Pascale, that you wish I would have asked you, or something that you wish would have come up in conversation that didn't?
Think so. But I just want to reiterate one more time that we're all leaders in some capacity, right? And so celebrate your leadership in whatever capacity it shows up in your life. And know that being a leader doesn't mean you always have to be in charge. Part of being a leader is knowing what you love, what you don't like doing, what you want to do and feel like I can't settle unless I'm in charge of this, and knowing what you can delegate and let go and just release, right? And so I think, just reiterating, give yourself grace and know we're all leaders.
And every one of us that are watching this, you are enough. You are an important person that brings so much to this world. And if you hold it back, we're not going to get the benefit of knowing you fully. And I hope that if there's nothing else that you took from this conversation today, it's to know that you are important, you are enough, and we want to know you better.
Yeah. And when you can show up and share your authenticity and share your gifts, share your vulnerabilities, you're giving the other person permission to do the same.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Pascale, it has been a delight to have you on Next Level Leadership. I already feel like the next level leader, because we can always go higher. I already next level leader for doing that. And just thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and being vulnerable and authentic and showing others that we can be the same.
Thank you for having me here. This was a beautiful conversation, as always. You're so enlightening. You're such a compassionate, empathic leader, and it's just a beautiful thing to witness. So thank you for being here. Thank you for allowing me to just spend some time in your community.
Absolutely. And I received that. Receiving is very important. So again, thank you to Pascale for spending time with us today. And for all of you who are watching, I hope that you got something out of this. I'm sure that you have. And I'd love to know what it is. We would love to know what it is. If you're willing to put a comment in the comments and let us know what you got out of today, or even what you'll take forth and help somebody else to understand, that would be fantastic as well. If you have any questions, I'm sure that Pascale would be more than happy to answer them if you want to put them in the comments. And I did forget to ask one important thing before we totally sign off, and that is, Pascale, is there any way that we can get a hold of you, or anyone can get a hold of you if they want to know more, or is there any gift or anything that you have for the audience?
Yeah, thank you so much for asking. The best way to get a hold of me is through my website, which is womenfindingclarity.com. And I do have a free ebook download right on my website homepage, and it's called The 7 Chakras of Feminine Business. And so, everyone's welcome to it. And, it's just one more tool to help you really do that internal look, both in yourself and in your business.
Fantastic. Thank you. We're going to put that information in the show notes. And so you'll easily be able to link to that when this drops. And if you find value in our conversation today or any of the conversations that I've had on this channel, it would be my honor if you would subscribe and you would send this or any of the other interviews to a friend if you believe that it would help them. It really would. It will help this to take off, and it'll help us to show others a different way of leading. So thank you all for joining us today. And until next time, we'll see you then.